Are you frustrated with guessing ledger line notes and wondering why your music just sounds so wrong? You're not alone. I've helped students just like you master ledger lines in minutes. By the end of this video, you'll read ledger lines instantly and discover why composers use them to make your music easier to read. So first, let's start with what ledger lines actually are. Ledger lines help us show more of the piano than just the treble and bass clefs can. So here's what I mean. I want you to listen to this passage first. Ugh, it sounds pretty rough, right? Now listen when I read the ledger lines correctly. Much better. That second musical example that you heard, that's from Tracks in the Snow, and it's available with the link below. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Rosemarie. I've been teaching for over 20 years and composing imaginative piano music for nearly as long here at Must Love Music. So why does it matter if we play the ledger lines as written? Many intermediate piano players find it hard to remember the names of ledger lines and just guess, and then wonder why the music sounds so horrible. But here's the thing, composers, such as myself, actually use ledger lines to make reading easier. Really, I promise. Rather than changing the clef sign for just a few notes, ledger lines let you visually see whether the pattern is actually moving up or moving down. So let's decode how to read these ledger lines in the middle of the staff. You may have learned some of this already, but I do find it's one that trips up students quite often. You already know one ledger line note. You probably learned it ages ago. That one ledger line that's right in the middle of both your treble and bass clef is middle C. You'll notice on this particular board, my bass clef decided to erase a little, but also that these are equally spaced. Normally, we wouldn't have an equal space between these two, so it can be a little harder to see, but it's going to work really well for our purposes today. So we've got our middle C right in the middle there. But what if you've got two ledger lines? If you've got a bass clef, and I'm going to do this one in red just so you can see it, our two ledger lines will take us up to E. And this is why I'm saying actually having an equal space makes it a little easier today for you to see. We've got two ledger lines going up. We've got middle C is that first line, and then E, which matches up perfectly with our treble clef. When you see this in your music, you're not going to see them match up with your treble clef, but for our purposes, it'll work. And in our treble clef, and I'm going to show you this one in green, if we go down, then we have A. So it might look a little different on your music. So that A that we were looking at would probably look something more like this, right? It's not matching up with the bass clef we've got over there. Here's where it gets really simple. Moving up or above or below a ledger line works exactly like moving anywhere else on the staff. You just move to the next note, watching for any accidentals in your key signature, of course. At this level, that's an important thing. Let me show you. If I'm on the middle C and I move up one note, that's D. If I move down one note, you can see C, and then below it is B. So what I'd like you to do is try it out. Pause the video, name the notes moving up from middle C. So it's middle C, then what? I'm moving down from middle C. What is it? By doing this, it'll make it a lot faster and quicker as you're doing this when you're playing. All right, well, let us see how ledger lines let us play right in the middle of the piano. So I showed you this a little bit before. So now you've got your overhead view. The middle of my piano is right about here. This is middle C. This is an interesting spot when you're writing music because usually part of it goes into the treble clef and part of it goes in the bass clef, and you have to make a decision. So in this case, I'm just going to do the left hand. I'm going to do a G bridge. Notice I've got one note above what would have been middle C, right? I've got D. So I'm going to use a ledger line for that. Going to move up. Now I've got two ledger lines because this E. And here I've got back to D. Right around that one ledger line, two ledger line option is where we kind of see this happen. But do you see how smoothly it traveled? I'm able to use the ledger lines to smoothly move, and you can see it's moving up, then down. And And normally in the piece, you'd be playing with your left hand, not your right hand, but that's okay. So here's something I haven't taught yet. We also use ledger lines on the outside of the grand staff. So way above the treble clef and way below the bass clef. And there's a simple strategy I teach my students for reading those quickly, especially when they're sight reading new music. But this video is just one technique that I use to help my students build real musical skills. In my online studio, you'll learn in a flexible, supportive environment designed for all learning styles. You're improvising and composing from day one. Visit the link below or scan the QR code here to book your meet and greet. So let me show you something fun that you can do with ledger line notes. You can see what happens if, say in some music that you're playing, you decide to move a ledger line up a note or down a note. This can be kind of fun just to see what happens. And I'm going to end on G there. I used exactly the same chords that I did before, but this time I just switched moving up or down a note to change the sound. Now here's a simple practice tip you can try right now. When you have notes close to the middle of the piano, see how quickly you can name the one ledger line notes around middle C. Once you've got those, then try the two ledger line notes. By the way, hint, those two ledger line notes, I don't know if you noticed, but they actually spell ace, at least for your treble clef. Do you want more videos on reading ledger line notes outside the grand staff? Those really high and really low notes? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, give the video a like. You've just unlocked an essential reading skill that opens up so much more music to you. But before you practice your new ledger line skills, explore the Scenes of Winter playlist. These pieces use ledger lines beautifully and give you perfect real-world practice.